Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for Cash Tag segment. For that, let's bring in our next guest. That's going to be Landon Schwan, co-founder at LikeFolio. Welcome back to the show, Landon.
Thanks. Great to be here, Tom.
I hope you've got some data on this one, because this is a head-scratcher to me. Uber's had some pretty good earnings reports over the last year and a half or so. The stock was at all-time highs in October, and now we've dumped 30%. Have things changed on your side as far as data goes?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be really disappointing, as an investor, to basically be flat on a year where, everything seems to be up. So yeah, I think we actually turned negative, like you mentioned, on Uber just today, but definitely down big since October, 85 down to about 60 now. And to answer your question, there is some data that kind of points to this. I mean, on their last report, they talked about having 130, the monthly active users was significant, right? 137 million, but that's down 2% on a month-over-month basis. Their revenue grew plus 20%. That was nice, but it's mostly in increasing prices, not increasing users. They are increasing their users, but not at the pace that investors had hoped. And frankly, I think what a lot of people are starting to realize, and this is kind of something that we've been talking about for a couple of years now, is I believe the future of this company is in driverless cars. And they shut down that cruise program, or that autonomous program that was going to put cars on the autonomous cars, on the road by 2025, saving $1 billion in costs, but still, it's the future of these kind of companies. I mean, you have to have that, because once you don't pay the driver, it becomes an extremely cheap service to provide. Everybody starts using it. The prices go down. I mean, this is the future of this company. It has to be. And I think that investors are starting to get scared that they're not going to find a great partnership, and maybe Tesla comes in and just beats them to it. And if that's the case, that's trouble for Uber. So we've always kind of described Uber as a binary bet. This is a situation where it either goes sky high and it is worth 10x in a few years, or it goes to zero. It's one or the other. There's not a lot in between, because if you just value on them based on what it does, then it's probably overvalued. You have to price in the premium of what can be. And unfortunately, I think right now a lot of people are worried that, yes, they do have a huge advantage in users, and they can turn those quickly into autonomous driving users. But they've got to have that partnership. They don't own the car, so they have to come up with a way to partner with a company to do this. And again, if it's Tesla, then it's a huge win, right? Then they win. It's awesome. But if it's not Tesla and it's Waymo or one of the others, or they start to try to do something else, so far that hasn't materialized. And there's also a concern that they're going up against Tesla, which is it's a beast to go up against. So. We're definitely concerned about this one, but we recognize the fact that, again, it's a binary bet. This should not be your entire IRA. This should be a flyer that you think is going to 5 or 10x in 5 or 10 years, or go to zero in 5 or 10 years.
Landon, I think it's important to note that Uber peaked out on October 11th, the day after the robotaxi event, is when this stock peaked out. And so the fears have to stem from competition from robotaxi and what that could lead. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is the golden goose at Uber the software? That app that links everything together and can be used just as well? They have to match up with somebody long term, because you're right. They don't have the cars. They either have to buy the cars or they have to hook up with somebody. What are the prospects here, and how important is that app that seems like it's really the moneymaker of all of Uber?
It is the moneymaker, but I don't think it's the moat that a lot of investors thought it was, right? I don't think that it's that difficult of an app to build. Now, it's really difficult to get 100 million users on it, and that, I think, is their moat. That's their biggest thing. But to build an app that connects drivers with passengers and charges and routes drivers in the smartest way, 10, 15 years ago, that's a pretty difficult thing to build. I think now it's really not that difficult. I'm guessing a lot of companies have built that. They just don't have the users, right? So the fact that they have users is their moat. It's not the software. I'm certain that Tesla could build that software and be as good or better than Uber's software. It really just comes down to users. So then you start asking yourself, okay, let's say that they don't partner with Tesla and Tesla makes their own, and it's Uber versus Tesla when it comes to ride hailing. Then it's just like, how can Tesla steal the customers away? And the thing about technology is, there's really no favorites. There's no brand loyalty. You go with the best solution. Now, Uber's going to have a major head start because they have so many users. And if they can get a good partnership, they should be able to keep those users. But if Tesla's better, if it's cheaper, if it's more reliable, then over time, people are going to move over. I mean, think about, web browsers, for example. I mean, Google Chrome is now the leader, but it started off at, 0.1%. Because it made the better mousetrap. So people will always switch over to the better technology. And user base is a great advantage, but it's not the moat. It's not the infinite defensible moat that a lot of people think it is. And the software itself is definitely not. It's great. They did a great job with it, but I think a lot of companies could make it.
So here's the theory then, Landon, that you're kind of laying out, that they better partner with Tesla. They've already got a partnership with Waymo, Google Alphabet's, driverless cars at this point, but they're rolling out slowly. So if they don't get that partnership with Tesla and Tesla starts bringing out their own, then, maybe the stock does continue to get hurt here, right? You mentioned zero. That's a wide gap, either 5X's or 10X's down to zero. I don't think it's going to go away, but they better start talking to Tesla meaningfully, right? If that's your theory, right?
Absolutely. And when I say 10X or zero, obviously I'm exaggerating a little bit, but yeah, I do think this is one of those binary bets. I mean, we're not investing in Walmart that might increase or decrease revenue by 5 or 10%. I mean, this is a kind of a make or break it moment for Uber. And if they do end up competing with Tesla, their advantage in users is going to be dwarfed by Tesla's advantage in cars. Because all of these cars out there are one software update away from becoming a driverless Uber of sorts, right? The robo-taxi can do it as well, but they could make Model 3s into Ubers within a software update. So I do worry about that. I think they have to make the partnership with Tesla. I think Waymo's going too slow with car production and just their technology of mapping. Tesla's been doing this for years now. They've been gathering data, learning how to drive, learning for the AI to drive by itself. So they've got a huge advantage technology-wise and wheels-wise, wheels on the road. So I think that's kind of where things stand. And Tesla knows this. I mean, they know that Uber needs them. So I wouldn't be surprised if a partnership happens that the deal was very favorable to Tesla, but it could still work out really well for Uber. So I guess it just comes down to whether Tesla wants to do the easy thing, which is partner up with the leader with the most users in Uber, or do the hard thing and build it themselves. And it's a tough call. I mean, when you look at what Elon Musk has done in the past, has he ever said, let me do the easy thing? I mean, it seems like every goal that he's ever set out has been, it kind of lacked that as impossible. And then 10 years later, you're like, wow, he did it. So it's tough. I don't know which way this is going to go. I think at this price, down to $60, I still think it's a good purchase as a shareholder with that goal in mind of, I'm going to set a small percentage of my portfolio into Uber, and 5 or 10 years from now, I'll check back and it's going to be either way down or way up. We're not going for 3 to 5% a year gains on this one. This is a significant mover one way or the other.
Yep. Dipping your toe in there. And I think this low cost car that Tesla might be releasing or announcing in 2025, they would probably just make that the robo-taxi itself and maybe sell them or lease them to Uber at this point. All right, great stuff. Great breakdown for us. Landon, have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that's Landon Swan, co-founder at LikeFolio. Boy, that was stark, dire,